Ngā mihi o te wā ki a koutou katoa. We start with breaking news out of the US this morning. There's reports of a shooting at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. We have Jack Tame here, fresh off the Q&A set, to talk to us about what you know, what's happening.
So at the moment, it's really important to make sure all of our viewers understand the information we have available is very limited. However, in the last couple of minutes, there has been a shooting at a rally that Donald Trump was holding in Pennsylvania. From the footage that we have seen of the rally, and of course there were many cameras that were at the rally, there were multiple gunshots. Now the former president is clearly alive. He has been surrounded by Secret Service staff. However, there are images that have come from this rally in Pennsylvania that suggest the former president has been injured. Now we don't know the exact cause of that injury just yet. Authorities in the United States haven't had anything to say. However, images suggest that the former president may have been hit by some sort of projectile in his ear. They show him with blood stretching from his ear down over part of his face. Again, he was able to stand up and walk away from the scene, but pretty alarming. So I'll talk you through the footage that has been available from this rally so far. Donald Trump was standing on a stage in front of many hundreds or indeed thousands of supporters. He was partway through his presentation, so he had supporters behind him as well as a large crowd in front of him. And very clearly you can hear in the footage what appear to be multiple gunshots. We don't know exactly how many shots were fired at this stage, but what appear to be multiple gunshots were fired at the former president. As soon as the gunshots are heard, Donald Trump goes below the podium he was standing on. He immediately crouches down and hides. Everyone else in the shot, so all of the people who were behind the former president, immediately duck for cover as well. All of the people in front of the former president immediately duck for cover. And in the footage, you can hear Secret Service staff saying, "Get down, get down, get down." So you can hear urgent calls from people on the scene to urge the former president to stand down or to shelter, as well as everyone else who was there. Interestingly, when the first couple of gunshots were fired, the former president reactively put his hand up and brushed his right ear. So he immediately put his hand up, held his right ear before ducking down for cover. And the images that have been released subsequently show him with what appear to be an injury to his right ear region and blood stretching down his face. Again, I want to just remind our viewers, here's some footage here you can see of people at the scene sheltering. That's them, and you can see the Secret Service staff immediately going up and supporting the former president. Now, a few seconds after this footage was taken, the former president stood and was accompanied by those Secret Service staff as he left the stage, and that's when a photograph was taken suggesting that he might have been hit by something in his right ear. I can speak from personal experience, having been to several of these rallies in the past, or many Donald Trump rallies in the past. Here's the footage here. So you can see the gunshots are fired and the former president immediately ducks down, but not before he holds his hand up to his right ear, and the Secret Service staff immediately rush in. You can see all of the rally attendants behind him immediately seeking shelter and ducking as well.
Seems extraordinary, Jack.
It does.
Talk from personal experience about this, but having been the US correspondent and lived in the States for so many years, it seems extraordinary that this was able to happen at a rally. Yeah,
if indeed it is proven and confirmed by the authorities that someone was able to fire a gun at the former president, you would have to say that is an extraordinary lapse in security. But again, we don't have any confirmation from the authorities yet. So at the moment, information is really scarce. But all we can say at this stage is that what appeared to be gunshots were fired as the former president was speaking. He held his hand up to his right ear. He was supported by Secret Service staff. You can see armed officials immediately come onto the stage as well. And a photograph taken shortly afterwards shows the former president standing, but with blood stretching from his right ear down part of his face. Now, from that information, it would suggest that someone has potentially fired a gun at the former president. We don't know that yet. It's really important to clarify we're in the very earliest minutes of this event, but clearly this is a massive, massive, massive event if indeed the former president has been put in this danger. Absolutely.
So Jack, you're going to be staying across this at least for this morning.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to be covering this. I mean, this is, this is going to be an enormous event, not only in the context of the current US presidential race, but
which
in
has
the
been
context
extraordinary
of
as it is.
Exactly, but in the context of political divisions and concerns over security in the US, this is clearly a monumental event. So we're going to keep up to date with all the very latest. At the moment, I might just finish up by just stressing what we do and don't know at this stage. What we do know is that video from a Donald Trump rally in Pennsylvania appears to show multiple gunshots being fired at that rally. The former president, in hearing those gunshots, immediately held up his hand to his right ear before taking cover behind the podium. He was immediately supported by Secret Service staff, and in the video you can hear Secret Service staff saying to him, "Get down, get down, get down." A photograph taken shortly afterwards shows the president standing, conscious, seemingly well, but for what is clearly a wound to his right ear. There is blood stretching from his right ear down part of his face.
Tēnā koe I ngā whakamara mai e hoa. We really appreciate you coming in this morning, and we will stay across any details as they come to hand. Military-style boot camps for what the government is calling youth serious offenders will begin later this month. There's no domestic or international evidence they work, but a pilot program will begin in Palmerston North. 10 teenagers who are in youth justice facilities and have committed at least 2 crimes that could have resulted in up to 10 years of jail will take part. The pilot program will also involve greater use of electronic monitoring, including the use of ankle bracelets. Police will also have greater powers to arrest young people for breaching bail conditions. Boot camps have been running under different names on and off since 1971. Detractors say they're ineffective and a waste of money. The government is promising that this iteration will be different. Jodie Ihaka went north to meet tamariki thrown out of mainstream education, some of whom are young offenders and getting themselves back on track with wraparound support.
Te tai tōkaro, tai tamariki aren't playing up anymore. They're on a learning journey. Ara Whakamaua is a kaupapa Māori program that offers back-to-school and work-ready pathways for youth offenders.
Kia ora, I'm Presley Stevens. I live in Kaikui and I'm 15 years old.
My name's Rita and I'm 14.
My name's Iri Paki. I'm 14.
My name's Michael James Archer and I'm 14 years old.
Te Tai Tōkero has one of the highest truancy and crime rates for youth offenders in the country. Missy Hampson is the rangatahi manager.
Hey Missy, how are you? Good to see you here. Good to see you too.
Like, it could be a number of reasons that our kids get to us, but usually they say, hey, that's the naughty kids. These aren't the naughty kids. I believe they just misunderstood, or maybe probably not even given the chance to have their voice heard at times. We're lucky we have a very small number in our training room, so they can have one-on-one tailored learning for them. So sometimes they're lost in the education system because they have high needs. They might have ADHD or anxiety. Anxiety is through the roof with our kids these days.
Depression?
No shortage of depression, yeah. And at 14, it's just, that's sad. So
Drugs?
yes, yep, drug usage, vaping, sometimes no access to uniforms. They get pulled up for having the wrong uniform, but they never had that right uniform to start with.
The government tried to tackle the serious youth offender issue with boot camps in 2009. The camps used military-style tactics, discipline, physical training, while also providing mentoring, education and rehabilitation.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Ara Whakamaua offers an alternative Māori approach. These students told Marae boot camps won't work, just like mainstream school didn't work for them.
Why did you leave school?
I actually got kicked out.
What for?
Weed, marijuana.
I just stopped going, yeah. Oh, and because of anger issues.
Went one day, never went back the next.
I used to just like lash out on kids Yeah, just like lash out and then like hit them and stuff.
Did you get kicked out of school?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Because of my attitude in it. Disrespectful, I think. Attendance and I don't know. I think I've been a naughty person, following the wrong people.
How much for 3 bikes?
Missy manages a team of 12 in the far north. There are 32 tai tamariki and 40 older students.
Some are serious offenders, some are young offenders. Yeah, that's, yes, at 15. Yeah, and how can we support them through that? So that's what we do. We've got really strong relationships with our community. We'll show up. If there's a FNGC or whatever it might be, we'll be there. We'll advocate for those kids.
Bro, this game's a scam.
Missy identifies with Te Tai Tamariki. She too had a rough start to life and was, as they say, known to police when she was just 11 years old.
Our babysitter made us watch Blood In, Blood Out, and next thing I'm selling crushed up Panadol. My mum and dad had no idea what happened. Anyway, yeah, I ended up in drug and alcohol counselling at 11.
While we're sitting in the Kaikohe Cafe, the officer who helped Missy get back on track walked in.
Changed my life, that man over there.
Senior Constable Rob Cameron has worked in the Mid-North for 27 years.
You must be quite proud of her. Your advice that she was 11 worked out then?
Yeah, well, a lot of good work done when she was at school. Remember as a little baby.
Missy says Māori kids just need to know someone cares.
Boot camps, will they work?
I can't speak too much on it, but look, I think the more opportunities that are out there for our rangatahi, the better. Yeah, we've got to do things a little bit differently, I think.
Ngāpuhi also provide an alternative tikanga-based approach for youth offenders. Melvin Rameka is a social worker, currently dealing with homeless kids living rough in Opununi.
The problem was that a lot of young people were starting to frequent the beach and practically live there on the beaches. When we asked about the situations out there, it was just that home wasn't safe. There was a lot of drugs and meth and pee or whatever they call it that was there. And the situation for some of them, for most of them, was that it was better for them to be together as a rōpū and looking after each other. And then but the thing is, they were still going to school, One of the stories was like hanging their uniforms up on a tree, going to bed that night and then putting their uniforms back on and going back to school the next day. I thought, as soon as I heard that, I said, no, if these kids are still finding that their educational environment is the only safe place for them or the haven, or they're trying to change their situation or break the cycle, who are we not to help?
Alva Pōmare and Dr. Moana Eruera say their focus is education.
Once they're in here, one of the things that they get to do is have a look at education more. So I think that's more around wānanga. So it's around them finding their own space in terms of being able to learn more, one, around self, and two, around setting their own goals.
Melvin says the root of the problem often starts at home, as was the case with those children who chose to live on the beach.
The situation was dire. You know that if you're living in that situation, it isn't going to be long before hunger sets in. And then when you've got no means, you look to the other means, and that's tahai kai. You end up starting to steal, you end up going into shops, then the shops kind of recognise you as those young people that are just causing nothing but trouble. So there is a lot of theft that ended up being a result of, rather than the reason for, if that makes sense.
How did these wānanga with the tai tamariki, how is that different to boot camps?
One of the reasons that we set up this program was alternative to institutionalising our tamariki. And so what we wanted to do was to make sure that we didn't open a home where we bring 8 or 10 young people into the same space. We wanted them to go to a whānau which is why they're placed with mātua atawhai ngāpuhi, they whakapapa to ngāpuhi, and they're placed in as natural as possible whānau home environment. So that was the first thing. The second thing is that having whakapapa as the basis to everything else that happens on the program. So the education, the life skills, the therapeutic healing, all of those things are on a foundation of whakapapa i te tuatahi. And that, I think, for us is the key to helping them on that healing journey. The other part of that is reconnecting them back to safe whakapapa-related adults.
How far will it travel in 20 minutes?
The Arawhaka Maua programs last as long as needed and also work on social skills. Presley approached us in the Kaikohe Park.
I'm here with my course. We're just having a bit of time out here. Finished all our work today in here.
Oh yeah, I'll come every day. Pretty sure I have to. My auntie just works up there at the courthouse. It's good, to be honest. This place is, to be honest, I feel like more respectful. I reckon I'll be more respectful when I leave this place. I've actually never heard that before.
The program has provided new opportunities.
Why is it better for you than mainstream school? The kids, the teachers, the hours.
Like, you'll get more credits going there than school and stuff. Yeah, you can probably get way more ahead than being in school.
The students learn how to drive, gain NCEA qualifications and to set goals.
Do you know what you want to do when you leave school?
Yeah, I do. What I want to do, I want to be a professional fighter one day.
What do you want to happen?
I don't know, just like get jobs.
So you're going to make your own car, fix it up, and then drive it around and do burnouts?
Yeah, well, then when it breaks, fix it again, do some more burnouts.
MJ told Marae he hasn't been in trouble with the police and doesn't have much in common with his classmates. After 10 weeks, he's graduated and returns to Kaitaia College.
I just want to leave this place being a better person than I was at Kaitaia College. And I know that's going to happen, to be honest.
So when they leave us, a cultural connection, sense of belonging, sense of community.
Life skills even.
Life skills, 100% life skills. Yep, these kids can fish, they can kayak, they can ride bikes, they can build things.
Enjoy every moment. Only you can mess it up and only you can make things right.
Whakihoki mai anō rā. Now, boot camps for serious young offenders are just a pilot program at this stage. We invited Labour's children and youth spokesperson to discuss kids and crime. So Willa Jean Prime joins us via Zoom. Kia ora. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Miriama.
So the government wants to reduce youth crime by 15% by 2029. What is Labour's target?
So, well, we're currently not in government, so we are not in that position of being able to set targets. But what Labor was doing when youth crime, was an acknowledged issue in our time in government was we introduced initiatives like Circuit Breaker. And in the time that Circuit Breaker was operating under Labor, we have seen, and the incoming government was informed, that program had a 76% success rate. So Labor was investing in programs that we know were working and we're getting the results. And those programs were like the ones that we have just heard that are operating in the north that were covered by your reporters up there. So programs like Kotahi Te Whakaaro and Circuit Breaker and so on.
How long did Circuit Breaker run for?
So Circuit Breaker came in, I believe it was in 2022, and we had evidence that this government has received, Miriama, when it came into government, the results from that program showed a 76% success rate with those programs, as opposed to what this government is proposing to do, which is boot camps, which we know have been tried and have failed in the past with an over 80% recidivism rate, a highly unsuccessful approach.
What's wrong with giving it a go? I mean, obviously, if you're going to introduce a boot camp and you know that they haven't worked in the past, you're going to be working to ensure that you fill the gaps. Why not give it a shot?
Well, why we believe that myself and the Children's Commissioner all believe that the military component is an unnecessary component of what their proposed approach is. And what we know is when you look at the evidence of when this has been tried in the past, it has been highly unsuccessful.
So let me just clarify.
Not reduced recidivism.
Let me just, clarify. So Karen Chaw says there wouldn't be NZDF staff running the programs with the pilot. There would be one Defence staff on site to oversee it for the 3-month in residence phase.
So what I'm saying here is that the military component, the boot camp component, is the part which has ample evidence of decades of research which shows that that component does not work. It does not reduce recidivism. It can cause further harm, not only to the participants, but also to staff, as we've heard recently from the Defence Force, for example. So what we are saying is that this needs a real response, and we should be backing what works, what the evidence shows works, and not
who was Circuit Breaker for? What kids was Circuit Breaker for? So let's just clarify very quickly. So these 10 teens that have been selected for this pilot, they've gone through a clinical assessment, they've had consultations with families and family court judges, and each teen will have individual plans for them throughout that pilot. Is that what Circuit Breaker provided as well, all those things?
That's right. So what Circuit Breaker was about wrapping around the key agencies within 48 hours of the child or young person offending, and ensuring that a plan was put in place for those young people, for them to get the services to meet their needs.
And this was for the most serious. This was for the most serious offenders.
Yes, that's right. And we also had the enhanced fast track, which is something that is a bit newer that we started. I understand it was about September last year. Unfortunately, the Minister in our recent scrutiny week said that the government would not be continuing the enhanced fast track, which was for our most serious young offenders. When I questioned her about that, she said, why would we support something that isn't working? I asked, had it been evaluated yet? And she said that it hadn't. So they are stopping something before it has even been given a chance, where other programs like Circuit Breaker Fast Track, which they are continuing that and expanding that. My issue is that they are introducing something that we know the evidence shows has failed in the past, which is the military component, the boot camp element of it. It is unnecessary. And it is a very expensive experiment for our tamariki and our rangatahi.
Okay.
What this government needs to do is to fund the programs that are working, like the ones that we just saw.
You know, as you say, so we've got a story about a program that appears to be working very well. You say that there is still a version of Circuit Breaker going on, so it doesn't seem really problematic, does it, to try something out, to try a pilot. And the other thing we should mention too, and it'll be interesting to get a more updated poll on this, but about 18 months ago, a majority of Kiwi voters said they would support military boot camps for serious youth offenders. So it seems that there is support in the community for this.
There may be support from the community for it, but they don't understand that the evidence shows that the military-style approach, that the boot camps do not work. It is expensive. It has a higher recidivism rate. It is not getting the outcomes for our communities that the communities themselves are wanting, which is a safer community. What Labour is saying is that this government should stop the nonsense in terms of the military academy, and that they should be focusing on the intensive wraparound support, which we heard, like the programs that you showed earlier in the segment. Those we know, we have evidence are working, and that's where they should be putting the funding.
Okay, well, let's just clarify again, though, that there is one Defence staffer on site to oversee it, not New Zealand Defence Force staff running it.
So, yes, they are continuing the fast track program, but they have cancelled the enhanced fast track program, which was for the small number of repeat offenders. They have redirected that money into their boot camp experiment, which is of major concern because we know that that has failed in the past. So they have taken the money from something that is working and putting it into an experiment. The Prime Minister says he doesn't care whether this works or it doesn't. doesn't, want to have an intellectual conversation or even a real conversation about this. So we have a Prime Minister who doesn't care about the evidence, and we have a minister who doesn't know all of the details about the program, which is set to start in just a couple of weeks.
So let me ask you, why you think that serious crime rose during Labour's tenure?
So there are multiple factors in that. We know that it rose after COVID, so COVID is a big factor in it, which is why our response after COVID was to look at the evidence of what works and to put the money there and to support that. This government needs to also be as serious about addressing the underlying causes of crime. We heard that in the segment that just played previously. It is about youth homelessness. It is about poverty. It is about truancy and disengaging with the education system. I'm really concerned, Miriama, when this government has cancelled youth homelessness funding. They've taken over $40 million out of that program. I want to just
stop you there for a moment, because we do have to wrap up. I want to ask you very quickly about your understanding of what has happened in the States. If you have any information that you can share with us on that. We don't know at this point whether there's been confirmation of a shooting at that Trump rally in Pennsylvania. We're waiting to get more detail on that, and One News is going to come to that in just a moment. But what is your reaction to that news?
So that news just came to me while I was logging on to join the Zoom this morning. It is shocking to hear that an incident has taken place, and as somebody who is in politics, it is frightening to hear that something has happened at a political rally. It's a fear a lot of us have, and not something pleasant to see.
Well, we thank you for your time, Willow Jean Prime, joining us this morning on Marae. Ngā mihi nui kia koe.
Kia ora.
So in a moment, we're going to cross to One News Live to get more detail on what happened at that Trump rally in Pennsylvania. We understand that there were sounds of what sounded like gunshots at that rally. We know that the former president fell to the ground, or at least ducked, holding his ear, that there was blood on his ear and across his cheek. Secret Service raced in to protect him, and we're going to go to One News very soon to find out the latest details on that. So stick with us here on One News to get on TV1 to get that latest news. You can also, of course, go onto the One News website to get further detail on that Trump rally. So are we able to cross to One News now, team? Okay, they're just getting prepared. So let me just recap what has happened. What we know so far from that Trump rally is that there were potentially thousands of people there. We know at least, of course, it's a Trump rally, there were hundreds there at the very least. There were sounds of what sounded like gunshots. The former President Trump ducked under cover. Before he did that, he held his hand to his ear. There was blood across his face. We don't have much more detail than that, but we know that on One News, which is happening now, there is more detail on what happened at that rally. So let's cross live to One News in a moment, but we will see you on Marae next week. Ia haumaru, te noho hei te rawiki. Ko te reo, te take.